Gonna record. All right, we are recording. This is class number 2 of the Chaplain's program, Chaplain Philosophy, Ethics. Just want to go over the ethics of the chaplaincy. This is, if it's a little dry, forgive me, but that's what ethics is about. We are, you are not, but I'm coming out of the ICPC, or the International Conference of Police Chaplains, and their program. Oh, I'm going to give Mark the benefit of the big TV screen. Okay. International Conference of Police Chaplains is an international group. It's mainly in the US, but it has members from all over the world. And it does set up certain parameters that different chaplaincies can adopt, all of it or part of it, as their manner of doing stuff. And ethics would be one of those manners. Pastoral care is offered to all, regardless of faith, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, creed, or religion. Situations that demoralize officers are dealt with. We come to bring emotional, mental, and spiritual aid for the burdens that are on law enforcement. There are officers also have families, and they suffer too. The officer's family is often neglected and overlooked. Sure, the cop on the beat has long, terrible hours and has to sleep during the day and do all kinds of nutty things with their job, but that means that his family has to adjust to all that too, and not see dad very often when he's got little kids in the house. We may have to provide specialized guidance, counseling, and assistance that is needed much. And law enforcement chaplain is a clergy person who brings special interest and training in law enforcement, pastoral care for the officers and the public. It's offered to all people without cost or the taint of proselytizing. Okay, so we don't go out there to make people into our faith. Ministry provides a source of strength for our officers. And other clergy that are out there are great guys, but they are not equipped for dealing with officers' lives. They don't have the calling, and they don't have the training, and we do. We come in the workplace and we provide empathy and experience for them. Okay, our core values. We respect and we honor the badge and the men and women who have earned the right to wear it. We pledge availability to the needs of law enforcement officers, as well as victims of crime. Victims of crime. Now, there is a line which we don't cross as chaplains, because we are there for the quote unquote good guys. We're there for the cops. We're there for the victims. We're there for the general public. And we're there respecting of the miscreants, the ones who break the law, but we're not jail chaplains. We're not going into the people who are incarcerated at the same time as dealing with the public. There's a reason for that. It's like you can't have one lawyer representing both sides in a law case. It doesn't matter which one's right or wrong, but the same lawyer can't do that. And so the same chaplain can't deal with the people who have been hurt by, or who have had to arrest a person who's breaking the law, and also go over to that person breaking the law and be their best friend and understand them through the situation. Somebody else needs to do that. Jail ministry is an excellent thing. We support it in the spirit, but we don't do both, because if you're seen to be doing both sides by law enforcement, you'll lose your credibility. And if you're seen there by the victims of crime, same thing. You lose your credibility. You're not there for them. You're there for the creep who injured them. So you're going to have to give up one or the other. and you go to honoring and helping the law enforcement professionals and the victims of crime. That's our limit. Though we believe in, and everybody knows that everybody has very great rights in this country to do the right thing. So we pledge availability.
Peter,
Yes,
a quick question on that. So I understand, that we shouldn't be involved with the the people who committed the crime as well as the victims, and the lawyer not working both sides. I get that, but are you saying we should not be involved at all in working with the incarcerated? Subject, different from the calls or the office we might go into, but are you saying we should stop jail ministries if we have them, if we're working with the police?
Check with the police on that. I'm not going to make it a dictum. I'm
Oh,
just,
just your opinion. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. I'd love to know what you think.
I would not feel comfortable being a jail minister at the same time as I'm coming, with a uniform I'm on the cop side. I'm not sure if they would trust me for that, but it it is a funny mix. Let me just put it that way. I think it doesn't work well. Somebody else needs to do that. Now, if you're having a successful way at both sides, maybe you live in a small enough county and community where multiple jobs have to be covered by the same guy, I wouldn't forbid it. But be sensitive to that and see if your law enforcement agency recommends you taking the stance at both sides, because it could be troubling. That's all. I'm just trying to identify a possible trouble area. Let me say.
No, that's great. I appreciate that. I would never would have thought of that. Thank you.
Yeah, you betcha.
Hey, Peter,
Yeah, you can.
Our sheriff's department will not allow us to do both sides.
Yeah.
So now I'm a liaison between getting those in to do the ministry. Like we just brought in 35 applicants to start over after COVID in order to help facilitate that. But I'm on the side of the Butte County Sheriff, and my line is to help those get in, but then I stay on the sheriff's side.
That's perfectly good.
Chaplain's side. Yeah.
Well, Ian Carmichael, right? Because he's got his.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I can see there. Yeah, and it's very important. It's a hugely important thing. I mean, Jordan Crossing has been a phenomenal benefit to Butte County and Glenn County too, where we have those incarcerated brought into the faith and fellowship of a Christian organization that's going to give them discipline, context of their lives, and lead them into non-recidivism. And their success rate is so high that courts are actually sending people from the jails into their program. So
sure,
it's a very valuable program. It's just whether you can visibly serve both sides of that at the same time. It can raise an issue. So like you said, your department sees that, and that's great. And to help others to take up that role, it's tremendous. That's very good. We officially see the benefit of that. We're not contrary to that. It's just that one guy can't fill both shoes. So there you go.
correct.
We subject our lives in our office to the scrutiny of accountability to ensure integrity. That's a very fancy sounding sentence. I didn't write it. At any rate, we're under a higher sense of accountability and have to maintain integrity at all times. Our chaplaincy. Our old chief used to joke at us in the Chico PD chaplaincy about our being money laundering fund because they had several projects that they like to run through our books. We have a 501c3 status, and we have our own bank accounts. So for like the Wheeling with Cops program, where they take kids up to Butte Meadows with four-wheel drive vehicles and drive them around with cops. They had a funding program, and they like to not have to run it through the city, which encumbers city council oversight and all kinds of questions about it, and didn't need all that heat. Likewise, when we set up our mounted unit, we ran the horses through our accounts because we could hold the monies in a separate account for them, and it didn't get through all the trouble of the city. Well, eventually it got so big, I said, this is bigger than we are. You need to get your own bank account. Anyway, we don't have a mounted unit anymore. I'm very sad, but we used to have one. We offer professionalism of service, including confidential listening and spiritual counsel. And we can go anywhere that the officer invites us to go in terms of the spiritual content of what we do. We just don't come spring loaded to jump on them and try to turn them into little Anglicans, which is what I am. All of us are very proud of our work. We often are so focused on our mission of service to officers that when our work is completed, we simply return to our regular ministry without telling the story of our work. So this is why a monthly chaplains meeting is really important, because we get to go in there, talk about what we've gone through, and get corrected in it, share our successes, and bless the ministry, or confess to mistakes that we've made, and help to enrich the training on everybody. One of the things I've noticed about police officers and police culture is that they are the most self-examining profession I've ever run into. They don't cover anything up. They dig it all up, they analyze it, they bring it all out, and they tell you what they did wrong. That was for the benefit of all the other officers who might go into a similar situation and could really benefit from the mistakes made by others, and tell the story of why not to make those same mistakes. You'll be hearing about some of those in the course of these classes. Okay, it's an opportunity to tell about our work with police officers, other members of our police departments, other public agencies, and members of the communities who face moments of crisis or tragedy. Police officers often say to us that I wouldn't do the difficult work that you do for anything. They look at us and are amazed. And I'm thinking, man, I was thinking about you. I don't have to go, pull a gun on somebody and tell them to stay, all that dangerous stuff, or get into street fights. They are trained and able to face armed robbers or control an unruly crowd. But a sobbing parent at a SIDS death can erase even the most stoic officer's composure. And we, as ministers, come into the situation and may not break down, because we have that spiritual content that keeps us together in hard times. Entering that saddest moment is no easier for a chaplain, but the chaplain brings experience, training, and skills to a tragedy that are as specialized as the law enforcement resources that officers develop with their training and experience. As a team, both chaplain and officer make an important difference in the lives of people touched by tragedy. We work together. A chaplain is only called out, like an officer is called out to something serious or something's wrong. We're called out just about only to deaths. And that makes us experts in the field. We represent a wide variety of religious traditions and levels of professional preparation and endorsement. But when we are a chaplain for everyone, we are working in the police world. Each is not the religious leader of a particular tradition, serving a particular congregation or service agency. We are a universal chaplain working for everybody who is present, and we adjust to who they are. We serve many personal and spiritual needs of individuals where they are when they need the support of another person who comes to them without judgment, with openness, and cares for them until the crisis is over. Chaplains respect the persons that they serve, even though there may be profound differences in race, gender, economic status, religious experience, and many other factors. Tell you how fast that moves when I gender in this typed up thing. I thought there were only two at the time. Okay, I can make a joke, but I think the world is finally coming back to sanity on that question again, and figuring out that we're not assigned a gender at birth. We are conceived as one or another of two specific genders, just about everybody. So, okay, we'll get there. Swallow the science. Chaplains come at any hour in all kinds of weather. If someone asks, a prayer will be offered in, I didn't write all this, to support the trembling spirit that comes in difficult moments. Chaplains spend many hours riding as active passengers with officers on patrol duty. And that, while it's a low load time when they're not responding call to call to call to call, is a time to get to know them, and for them to learn to trust you. So ride-alongs are really important because the cops get to know you. They'll talk about you to other cops, and they'll find you as a good guy. They also chaplains also participate in a wide variety of training programs with their officer partners, and are asked to teach classes occasionally dealing with stress, family life, relationships, ethics, and other issues. I'll tell a little anecdote here. I had a very early experience. The second chaplaincy call out I was given was by the chief to go where a couple of officers had been stabbed. We're going to talk about that later. But I'll give a preamble. These two officers had been stabbed in the field and were sent to the hospital. Their wounds were fairly superficial, and ultimately not troubling. But I was sent to the hospital to look after these two officers, and the chief was there, and the chief, not knowing what to do with the chaplain, sent me with the two wives of these officers into a private room to pray with them. So I was assigned to go take these girls and pray with them. One of the two wives was herself a police officer, and I was bound to go in there and now pray with you. And I prayed. I did, fine job, I suppose. Well, later I had an opportunity to share chaplaincy and the reasons for it with the whole department. And this same female officer said, I just wanted to say that we had that situation, and my husband was in the other room and had a stab wound in his thigh and might have been serious, and I wanted to go be with him. But the chief had you go and take me into a closet, and we were in there praying when I didn't want to. And I said, I am so happy that you said that, because that would never be something I'd want to have crossed between us. It was certainly the chief decided that, and the chief was trying to be a good guy and do something worthwhile with the chaplain. But it was not by your permission. And I apologize for that. I didn't know what else to do. I had to follow the chief's orders. But please let know that I wouldn't have forced that on you. And let's learn from that. From my stance, I just did, and I'll share that with my other chaplains. Make sure it's always by permission that you pray with somebody. She wanted to be with her husband. I was forcing her to pray in a closet and challenging her religious beliefs at the same time, because she had a hard religious upbringing. She and I became good friends in time, and that was one of the ways that we did become friends. But it was through an awkward situation that was turned into something that was more confessional, more realistic afterwards. Okay, there is a canon of ethics, and I'm going to not have you read every word of that, except you can read it on your own. But I'll just have you know that that's there. Let me explain what that Article 1 says, which says primary responsibilities of the law enforcement chaplain. We do stand as examples of God's goodwill and commandments to mankind before the officers we serve and the public we serve in the capacity as a police chaplain. We have to walk our talk. We need to watch our language, not try to match what we hear, and not be prudes either. Our advice must be legal, moral, factual, practical, and as much as possible religiously neutral. Unless people are asking us specifically about our church or what we do or what we believe, certainly you can tell them. I've been to a scene where a guy died. He was such a drunk all the time, on the floor, drunk, laid out, passed out in the house. They walked over his dead body for hours thinking he was just asleep, until they finally realized, oh, your boyfriend is dead. And they had to call for the medics and the cops to come. And they came to me smoking in my face and saying, you think he's gone to heaven, don't you? We think he's in heaven. And that's a challenging moment when you have to say, well, that is something that only God knows. But I will pray for that right now. Well, would you come on out to the van where his body is and see if you can pray over the body right now? We really want you to pray. So we go out and we do that. I'm not giving it an even chance, frankly, in my heart. I'm thinking, if there's a lost soul, man, this guy really qualifies for that. But then that's not my job. And I recognize my pay grade is well below that. Article 2 is that we have a duty to be well versed in moral laws and departmental regulations, with responsibility to ourselves and other police personnel. In your experience with law enforcement, you'll see that the officers we serve walk a very fine line in the field, having to observe many rules, laws, general orders, codes of conduct, and behavior toward the public that may surprise you. We need to be familiar with it and uphold it. One of the rules that I saw that was employed perhaps too harshly on an officer is that in our department and every department, there's a rule: never receive gratuities, period. You never take any gifts from the public. And if you do, you're subject to dismissal or discipline. And one of our officers, a very favorite sergeant in our department, was working late one night, and downtown there was a guy who sold pizza on the street, and he was closing his business down, and he had about 3 or 4 extra pizzas in boxes. And he said, would you take this into the department and give this to your dispatch or put it somewhere, because I can't sell them tomorrow. This is done and I can't sell it. It's too late. It's 2 a.m. So the cop brought it in and set it up for the dispatchers and the records department to have pizza. But he was called on the carpet by the chief, who said, you received a gratuity and I'm demoting you from sergeant to officer again. What do you think about that, Mark?
Yeah,
Anal retentive?
a little bit, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that not understanding the situation. It was not a popular decision, and the cops really thought like they'd been preyed on. I think, but there are rules that will be administered to. Now there are cops and departments that receive the half off at In-N-Out Burger, for instance. There's a dictum with In-N-Out Burgers where they must give an officer 50% off on every sale there. And for our department, that means that you're receiving a gratuity. So none of the Chico police officers can go through In-N-Out Burgers in uniform. Because they can't get the guy to stop giving them a 50% discount, and they can't do this. Other departments relax that and say, if you get half off at a coffee shop, just thank them and go on. But the different departments have a different culture. Understand that the officers will most often refuse to have you pay for lunch, coffee, etc., because their code requires them not to accept the gratuities, as I mentioned. From chaplains would not really be a violation, but they take it very seriously. If you're with a cop, you can offer to buy him coffee. That's not a violation. If he says, no, I'm going to buy yours, accept it gracefully. You're out there for free and he's getting paid. Now, utilization of proper means. We have possible ways we might feel inclined to break a law of God or department. I don't even want to talk about this. There are no ways we're going to break a law of God if it's a law of God or of the department for a worthy end. I'm just leaving it there. I can't think of an instance, so I better not go further on it. Cooperation with department and religious officials in the discharge of law enforcement chaplaincy duties. Wearing the uniform does not ever make us a law unto ourselves, but rather more responsible to higher authorities, be they religious or secular. We're like military chaplains, with a salute to the chief, a prayer to God, and a spirit of service to one and all. What did Jesus say about those who want to be the head of this outfit? Be a servant to everybody. And that's where we come, serving everybody in humility. Article 5 says the conduct toward community. The manner in which we treat the community when in police uniform or not reflects upon our department, upon our church, and upon God himself. We have no public life of our own. I certainly notice that. I'm often in a uniform of some kind. I wear a religious shirt and collar and stuff. And people recognize me like that. They see me in this chaplain uniform and they recognize me like that. But I can go out in a t-shirt and it seems like half the town of Chico knows who I am. So I can't get away with anything in this city. And I got to remember that at all times. Don't be bad. We are religiously neutral so that we can minister to someone of another faith in a manner that is sensitive and appropriate to them, knowing that the minister of that person's faith could do better, but at a later time. Okay. Article 6, professional conduct of law enforcement chaplain. We have an entire unit on confidentiality, but suffice it to say that our conversations and experiences with officers are at least somewhat confidential, private. And the more you talk about the officers, the less confidence they will put in you at times of need. Now you can talk them up, but I'm just saying if you're critical about them out loud, it gets back to them and it's going to ruin your relationship. The acceptance by the departments toward the chaplains has been established on the basis of confidence that we will not violate the officers' confidence. And certainly official confidence. Like I say, we'll talk about that later. Ecumenicism. We have a great breadth of faiths represented in the Chico Police Chaplains Association. Well, right now we have mostly Christian ministers of various denominations and also a member of religious science. And that's the only faiths that we've had basically in there. It was suggested at one point that we accept a Baha'i woman, but she wasn't a minister. There was no ordination and no licensing and nothing that would say we can get confidentiality here. So we couldn't accept her application. But that is our strength. We have a breadth of religious faiths, and certainly we've had Catholic and myself Anglican and others Baptist and some of the Calvary Chapel and non-denominational pastors, all of them valuable. We don't have a problem at all between us all. We learn from each other how to minister to others in ways our own churches might not instruct us. We need to find out how the subject of our ministry expects to receive our ministry and not lay out our own familiar methods in every given situation. Gifts and favors, we kind of talked about that. But our chaplaincy can accept charitable donations from officers and employees. In fact, we have that set up. I don't know how Glenn or Butte County have, but there is an option for all of our officers to give from their paycheck, so it comes out of their paycheck to United Way or different kind of things. Also, our police chaplaincy, so they can give $2, $5, $10 per paycheck to our chaplaincy and maintain a fund for us, which we have an ample fund right now, so we can uniform our own chaplains. They don't have to put out any money to be dressed as we do. We never give preferential treatment to any who give, nor do we fail to minister to those who do not. You'll never receive a personal gift in exchange for favors or special considerations, of course. And you may receive gifts as from friends or complimentary coffee or whatever, and that's appropriate. You may not receive personal gifts from the public as a police chaplain, period. We used to have a Christmas exchange in the police department, which meant that under $5 or something like that, you could bring a gift for somebody else and you get a gift from somebody else and you could exchange that at Christmas. So you never knew who you were going to be giving to or from, but you were part of that program. It was fun. They quit that though about 10 years ago, and I wish they'd get it back. All right, per our professional attitude, we have a proud and holy heritage as chaplains. We should respect each other and ourselves in this office. It is a great opportunity for good. It takes only a moment to ruin it for everyone. So protect the chaplaincy by your proper actions, attitudes, and words. We have had chaplains who were sent out of the chaplaincy due to their behaviors. Sometimes as chaplains, sometimes just in their own personal lives. They got in trouble with the law or with something or other. One of the things that one of our chaplains did was appear at a city council meeting in full uniform and then get up to the podium and express a personal bias on a subject as a chaplain. Well, the chief was in attendance at that meeting and watched one of his chaplains go on the stand and speak a bias from his chaplaincy program. He got drummed out. That was the end of that guy. So, we represent something here. Uniforms mean something, and we mean to abide by those meanings. All right. I kind of sped through this, but I expect you to read through it carefully and see what it does say. Appreciate that.
I got one question, Peter.
Yes, sir.
So out of uniform, because I'm a part of a committee in our city, go to many different council meetings. So out of uniform, could you speak to something that is under your conviction or?
Oh, absolutely. You're a private
Okay.
citizen. You maintain that. It's only
Okay, but it's in the uniform, correct? Okay, that was my question.
as you are identified as a chaplain, you will refrain from making public policy statements or evaluating the role of police. You just defer to the police themselves. But out of uniform, you're a free citizen. Absolutely. So I want to make that clear.
Okay.
Good. Any of you have any experience about any of these things? Want to share anecdotal stories with us or some of the things? You had a chaplaincy in San Diego County.
Yes, we did.
How was it?
Worked out pretty well. The last two that we had at the station where I worked, I actually was attending. I ended up attending church at their churches, and one of them became a very good personal friend of mine. And matter of fact,
He's coming into town.
he's coming into town. I was his best man at his wedding here last year.
Mhm.
But it was a very good program. We had there was they did a law enforcement breakfast once a year that had some very good speakers, let's put it that way. But some of the higher ups that attended were a lot of times, this is my personal opinion, not the opinion of anything else. It felt like they were just there to get FaceTime with some other higher ups and that type of thing. So, but the vast majority of officers that went to that breakfast and some of the other functions that they had down there, you could tell they really, it really meant a lot to them to have that ability, because it's a tough job, and I relied quite a bit on my religious beliefs to get through the job and things like that. So
in Butte and Glenn County, I don't see that we have the existence really of a mega church anywhere here. It's something like Bethel or something that's so huge that would swing a big hammer. But there was a local church whose minister or associated minister was applying for our chaplaincy, and I had to say, no, your church has a reputation, and the reputation is just what that is. It's gotten by some means or other.
That was my class.
Huh?
That was my class. I remember that.
Yeah. Okay, good. And I had to say, there's a bit of a reputation that you guys are the only Christians in town. However that comes to be out in the world, just know that that's in there. You come into this program without that, or else we can't have you. You can't be here as the real Christians versus the phony Christians. That just is never going to work. As it turned, he assured me that was not going to be the case, and all is well. But then it turned out he was just way too busy to do chaplaincy. He was involved with a lot of stuff. So he ended up shutting out of the program anyway. I don't think any of you guys are part of a multi-billion-dollar industry, religious broadcasting in the whole wide world. So you're probably safe for us. We'll be happy to accept all of you into our program. And you're going to do well with your chaplaincies. In fact, my wife is probably the only person I'm connected with a worldwide evangelistic program. It would surprise all of you to hear that. But my wife is Iranian by birth, and she got invited to make TV shows in Farsi to be broadcast in Iran and over the Middle East. And she's been doing that for the last 10 years or so. Videotaping programs here in Chico, sending them to Dallas, and by satellite link into that part of the world. So I'm married to a televangelist, believe it or not. And we laugh about that, but and we certainly don't get a dime for it either. So that isn't about being famous or rich by it, but it's a blessing to have a positive ministry in a part of the world where they really need it. Okay.
Hey, Peter, I got one other thing, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
We have found out we did our first Christmas dinner for the SO last year. And from the chaplains, from the group of chaplains, and we raised money. And then the money that we didn't spend, we put it in the, I think it's the Posse. There's another organization that helps. And then we put that money in the Posse, and and everybody loved it. And so what we do at our chaplaincy is that we're a week on every other 4 weeks.
Okay.
So where you guys come in on a Thursday, we're on week on from a 7-day, from Sunday to Sunday.
Yeah.
And then I try to make my rounds every week, whether I'm on or off, just because. And then we bring in coffees for the dispatch or for the office every once in a while.
Right.
And it just seems that it warms things up. You know, we're not preachy. We're just doing something nice.
Well, that's it.
So this year we're doing the same thing, and we're going to add the gift exchange.
Nice. Where do you hold that dinner?
So we do it in the SO in the downstairs basement.
Okay.
And then we have tabletop there on the corner of Grand and Table Mountain cater it for us.
Oh, cool.
Super food. And so, and then he supports us and he gives us a great deal on all the food, brings it in hot, and then everybody just comes in rotation in like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and does that. So, and that has just really lightened up a lot of things. Everybody really loved it.
How many badges do you guys have right now? How many officers?
Chaplain?
No, the SO.
Oh, I think the total is like 726
What?
total people in Butte County. That's total. That I don't know how many badges.
Okay. But that's the
That's total
employees.
total people. Yeah, employees.
Wow, that's a big department.
And then I think we had when we announced the Christmas party for last year, I'm going to tell you that there was probably 200 to 225 that came through that day. They drive in from their, duties and come in and have a dinner, and then they go back out. And it was really a great success.
Do you know Officer John Carrillo?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he was our first liaison for the chaplains in Chico PD. He was with the PD before he was with the SO, and so he's a good friend. I've known him for many years, and we went through a lot of things together. Amazing. A lot of the things I'll describe as huge events that we had here in Chico. John Carrillo was over them, and a fine officer, fine man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been the sheriff of Forest Ranch and Cohasset, which are not sterling places in the big world. But yeah, he's a fine guy. Okay, anybody else got any questions or stories to tell? We'll be back in 2 weeks. I regret I've got a meeting next week Now, if that changes, and I were to contact you all in enough time, are you available to meet next week at this time? Because I'm not sure that that's a solid meeting. But for right now, I've been told it's our bishops and we're all meeting online. So, okay. 2 weeks from now, we've got 2 more and they're very specific now. After this sort of general treatment, you get specific. Okay,
I'll be in Texas next week.
that's fine. Well, you don't have to worry about it next week, but I won't be having a class, but in 2 weeks we will be back on. And I hope we don't have any more technical difficulties. I'm going to send you all that that video I was trying to get to play for you, because you can watch it on your own.
So that'll be the 19th at 1.
That sounds correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
19th at 1 o'clock. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
First
you.
Thank you.
The first guy who got here today was Brennan DeForest here. And so I'm going to let him pray us out, would you?
Sure. Heavenly Father, thank you for another day under your grace. Thank you for this training that we've had and the ability to learn and learn about wisdom to do these tasks and these vocations as you see fit for us. Bless us as we go about the rest of our day and as we go about the rest of this training over these coming months. Bless us and keep us and help us to grow in wisdom and understanding and knowledge, not only of you, but of also these tasks that you have called us to do. All this we pray in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen. God bless
Amen.
you all. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a blessed week.
You too.